Who was most preoccupied with interest rates and inflation in the U.S. economic arena? You'd win hands down because of your stewardship at the Fed. Do you worry about inflation in today's economic circumstances?
Very much so, yes. History tells us that when you go through a period such as this with huge amounts of liquidity in the system, which at the moment is not being used at all,
right,
that eventually it takes hold and it begins to move in the price level. So I don't know of a single economist, or certainly any member in government whom I know who deals in this area, who isn't worried about that issue.
The possibility of inflation.
Yes.
And it comes from food and fuel and other commodities?
No, it comes from basically the issue of very large amount of liquidity in the system. What we know is Milton Friedman, the very famous American economist, said,
a Nobel laureate.
A Nobel laureate and good friend, that inflation is always the result of a monetary cause. That is, prices are defined in terms of the ratio of a good to the amount of money. When you have an excessive amount of money, eventually it will cause the price of a particular good to go up. And that's always been the case. It's just a question of the timing is often very delayed.
The debt ceiling. How do you view the debate that's going on in Washington between Republicans and the administration?
Well, first of all, Charlie, I think the concept of the debt ceiling makes no sense to me whatsoever, because we have in place appropriations which are passed by both houses of the Congress, signed by the President, the tax code which has the same characteristics, and unless you are peculiarly incapable of doing arithmetic, you can tell what the increase in the debt has to be. So to, on the one hand, pass legislation on expenditures and taxes, and then superimpose on it another piece of legislation which stipulates that irrespective of what you've done in the first two, you can't borrow money, meaning you cannot spend more than the revenues that come in. It strikes me as you've got contradictory legislation.
Ben Burnett. Join us online at charlierose.com.